Welcome to the Sci-Fi Codes channel. Have fun listening to this story. Don't forget to subscribe. With the subscribe button, Chapter 1, The Threat of Earth. The high citadel of the Galactic Empire loomed above the imperial capital, a towering structure of obsidian and light that pierced the sky like a dark shard. Inside, the council chamber was a circular room, vast and imposing, designed to remind those within of their smallness in the grand scheme of the Empire's dominion. The chamber's walls were adorned with holographic projections of the Empire's many conquests. Glorious battles fought on distant worlds, alien civilizations bent to the Empire's will. Grand Chancellor Torvic stood at the center of the chamber, his figure framed by the flickering lights of the galaxy map hovering above the council table. The map displayed the Empire's vast expanse, spanning over 100 star systems, with thousands of planets under its control. Torvic's attire reflected his status. A regal robe woven with threads of starlight, shimmering and constantly shifting, as if the fabric itself was alive. His crown, an intricate lattice of precious gems, caught the light and refracted it in dazzling patterns. "Esteemed Council," Torvic began, his voice echoing through the chamber with a gravitas that demanded attention. "Our dominion over the galaxy is threatened not by a vast fleet or a formidable armada, but by a single planet, a rock that was once considered beneath our notice." He gestured, and the galaxy map zoomed in on a small blue-green world at the edge of the Empire's territory. Earth. It looked insignificant compared to the vastness of the Empire, a speck of dust in an ocean of stars. Yet this speck had become a growing problem, a festering wound that threatened to infect the Empire's core. "Earth," Torvic continued, his tone dripping with disdain. "Once a primitive backwater, now a rising power under the banner of the United Earth Federation. Their technological advancements over the past century have been nothing short of alarming. Quantum energy manipulation, advanced AI, military strategies that rival our own, and most concerning of all, a unity that defies their nature." The council members, representatives of the most powerful factions within the Empire, murmured in agreement. They were a diverse assembly of beings, some humanoid, others distinctly alien, their forms reflecting the wide variety of species under the Empire's rule. Some had scales, others fur. Some were towering giants, while others were diminutive but radiated an aura of intelligence and menace. Yet all wore the colors of the Empire and bore the same look of concern. "Chancellor," spoke Councillor Valter, a tall, thin figure with elongated limbs and eyes that glowed like molten gold. He represented one of the Empire's oldest and most powerful factions. "We have faced uprisings before. What makes Earth different? Why not simply crush them with our fleets?" Torvic's eyes narrowed, and he leaned forward, his gaze piercing. "Earth is not just another rebellious province, Valtor. They are organized, cunning, and their technology is advancing at a pace we've never seen. They have an uncanny ability to learn and adapt, often turning our own strategies against us. A direct assault would be costly and could expose us to vulnerabilities we cannot afford." He paused, allowing the gravity of his words to settle over the council. The Empire's strength lay not just in its fleets and armies, but in its ability to maintain order through fear and control. A protracted war with Earth could disrupt that balance, emboldening other rebellious factions across the Empire. "No," Torvic said, his voice softer but no less commanding. "This threat must be neutralized with precision, a surgical strike that will cripple their leadership, leaving them in disarray. We will send assassins to eliminate Earth's key figures before they can mount a defense. Earth will fall, not through brute force but through the careful, calculated removal of its leaders." The council murmured again, this time with a mixture of approval and unease. The plan was bold, risky even, but Torvic had never led them astray. The assassins, spectral killers bred for stealth and efficiency, were the Empire's most secretive and deadly asset. They moved like shadows, unseen and unheard, leaving no trace of their presence. To those few who knew of their existence, they were known simply as the Reapers. Torvic turned to Commander Rix, a figure cloaked in darkness at the far end of the room. Rix was the leader of the Reapers, a man whose reputation was built on whispered tales of entire governments collapsing overnight, their leaders found dead in locked rooms with no apparent cause. "Commander Rix," Torvic said, his tone formal, "is the plan ready?" Rix stepped forward, his movements fluid and unnaturally silent. His appearance was unsettling, slim, almost skeletal, with eyes that seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. His voice, when he spoke, was a rasp that sent shivers down the spines of those present. "Yes, Chancellor. The Reapers are already in position. Earth's leaders will fall one by one, and their federation will crumble." Torvic nodded, satisfaction gleaming in his eyes. "Then let the operation begin. The Age of Earth ends today." Chapter 2. The Assassin's Strike. The city of New York was a pulsating heart of humanity's achievements, its skyline a testament to Earth's ambition and resilience. Skyscrapers of glass and steel reached toward the heavens, bathed in the glow of neon lights and holographic displays that advertised everything from luxury habitats on Mars to the latest advancements in quantum computing. At the pinnacle of one of these towering structures stood General Marcus Holbrook, staring out over the city he had sworn to protect. Holbrook was a symbol of Earth's unity, a decorated war hero who had played a key role in uniting the planet's once fractured nations under the United Earth Federation. Tall and broad-shouldered, with graying hair and a stern, weathered face, he exuded a quiet strength that inspired those under his command. Tonight, however, as he looked down upon the city's bustling streets, a sense of unease gnawed at him. He had spent his life fighting enemies he could see, but the current threat was unlike any he had faced. Unbeknownst to Holbrook, an assassin lurked in the shadows of his office, a reaper sent by the Empire to eliminate him. The assassin's form was cloaked in a light-bending suit that rendered it nearly invisible. Its movements were slow and deliberate, like a predator stalking its prey. Holbrook's personal security systems, some of the most advanced on the planet, had detected nothing. To the reaper, he was already dead. The assassin waited for the perfect moment, every second calculated. It was not just a killer, but a masterpiece of the Empire's dark arts, a being bred for a single purpose. As Holbrook turned away from the window, the reaper struck, a whisper of movement in the still air. Holbrook barely had time to react before a thin, razor-sharp blade, honed to cut through any known material, found its mark. The general's eyes widened in shock as he fell, his life extinguished in an instant. Across the world in Sydney, Dr. Jessica Perry was hunched over a holographic display, her brow furrowed in concentration. Perry was a brilliant scientist, one of Earth's foremost experts in quantum defense technologies. Her work had been instrumental in developing systems that could shield the planet from extraterrestrial threats. She was Earth's best hope for countering the Empire's technological superiority. Her office, like Holbrook's, was protected by cutting-edge security measures. Motion sensors, thermal detectors, and AI-driven surveillance systems monitored every corner. Yet none of these defenses detected the assassin that slithered through the vents above her. This reaper was serpentine in form, its flexible body allowing it to maneuver through spaces where no human could fit. Its approach was silent, its movements precise. As Perry tapped commands into her console, the reaper descended like a viper striking its prey. Perry's scream was cut short as the assassin's blade sliced through her neck, severing her spinal cord in one swift motion. Her body slumped forward, and the holographic display flickered, then dimmed, as if mourning her loss. The Reapers continued their deadly mission across the globe, each strike meticulously planned, each target eliminated with ruthless efficiency. By dawn, the United Earth Federation was in chaos. The President, the heads of military and intelligence, key scientists and strategists, all were dead. News of the assassination spread rapidly, and with it, fear and confusion gripped the planet. Earth, so recently united and confident in its strength, now faced an uncertain future without its leaders. In the hours that followed, panic set in. The global networks were flooded with reports of the assassinations, each one more alarming than the last. Governments scrambled to secure their remaining officials, but the damage was done. Earth's chain of command was shattered, its brightest minds extinguished in a single night. The Empire's message was clear: resistance was futile. But deep within a heavily fortified underground facility, hidden from prying eyes and outside the reach of the assassins, a contingency plan was activated. Known only to a handful of individuals, this facility was the nerve center of Earth's last line of defense, a program so secretive that even the highest levels of the Federation had no knowledge of its existence. It was here that Earth's darkest secret lay dormant, waiting for the call. In a room lined with advanced stasis pods, a team of operatives stirred from their artificial slumber. They were Earth's ultimate weapon, genetically enhanced soldiers, trained from birth in the art of war and augmented with the latest cybernetic technology. They were the Boogeymen, a myth whispered among Earth's enemies, a nightmare for those who dared threaten the planet. As their pods opened, the operatives stepped out, their eyes cold and focused. Kane Shepard, the leader of the Boogeymen, stood at the forefront. He was a towering figure, his body a blend of human and machine, his mind honed to a razor's edge. Kane had been designed to lead, to inspire, and to kill with unparalleled efficiency. He surveyed his team, each member a lethal weapon in their own right, and nodded. "It's time," he said, his voice a deep, resonant growl. "The Empire thinks they can break us. They've made a mistake. We'll show them that Earth is not so easily conquered. Boogeymen, suit up. We've got a message to send." The Boogeymen moved with purpose, donning their armor and weapons with the precision of a well-oiled machine. They were Earth's last hope, and they knew it. The Empire had declared war, but the Boogeymen were ready to strike back, and this time, they would not be fighting for survival. They would be fighting for vengeance. Chapter 3. Rise of the Boogeymen. The hidden base of the Boogeymen was a marvel of human ingenuity and defiance, buried deep beneath the Rocky Mountains in North America. Accessible only through a labyrinth of tunnels and concealed entry points, it was a fortress of steel and stone, impervious to all but the most determined assaults. Here, Earth's most advanced technologies were housed, shielded from prying eyes by layers of quantum encryption and stealth fields that masked its existence even from the Empire's most sophisticated sensors. Kane Shepard walked through the base's main corridor, flanked by towering walls of reinforced titanium alloy. His armored boots clanked against the metal floor, each step resonating with a sense of purpose. Around him, his team was already mobilizing, preparing for the mission that would change the course of the war. The Boogeymen were not just soldiers. They were legends in their own right, each with a story of heroism and sacrifice. Nikki Hayes, the Boogeymen's cyber warfare specialist, was hunched over a console, her fingers dancing across the keys as she sliced through layers of Imperial encryption. She was a petite woman with fiery red hair and a fierce, determined expression. Despite her size, Nikki was one of the most dangerous operatives on the team. Her mind was a weapon as sharp as any blade, capable of dismantling enemy systems in seconds. "Kane," she called, not looking up from her screen. "I've intercepted their communications. The Empire's trying to cover up the assassinations, but it's too late. Their propaganda machine can't keep up with the reality on the ground. People are scared, but they're also angry. We can use this." Kane nodded, his face grim. "Good. They think they've won because they took out our leaders, but they've only made us stronger. Fear is a powerful motivator, but so is hope. We need to show Earth that we can still fight back." He turned to Mex Vega, the team's recon specialist. Mex was a former scout for Earth's Special Forces, her sharp eyes and quicker reflexes enhanced with neural implants that allowed her to see in multiple spectrums. She was a silent operator, her movements so fluid that she seemed to glide rather than walk. "Mex, what's our intel on the Imperial strike team?" Kane asked. Mex pulled up a holographic display projecting a 3D model of an Imperial warship. "They've deployed a Spectre-class cruiser in orbit, standard loadout for infiltration and quick strikes. Their ground team is already in position at one of our outposts in the Arctic Circle. They're moving fast, but they're not expecting resistance." Kane studied the display, his mind working through the possibilities. The Empire's arrogance was their greatest weakness. They believed Earth was already defeated. But the Boogeymen thrived on underestimation. "Then we hit them where it hurts," Kane said, his voice cold and determined. "We'll take back that outpost, and we'll do it loud. I want every Imperial on this planet to know that we're still here and that we're coming for them." The team nodded in unison, their expressions hardening. They had trained for this. Every scenario, every contingency. They were the Boogeymen, the best of the best, and they thrived on impossible odds. As they suited up, each operative checked their gear with the precision of a master craftsman. Their armor, sleek and black, was woven with nanofibers that could absorb energy blasts and deflect most conventional weaponry. Their helmets, fitted with HUDs linked directly to Nikki's tactical network, provided real-time data on enemy positions, environmental conditions, and mission objectives. Kane strapped on his gauntlets, feeling the familiar weight of the combat suit settle around him. It was more than just protection. It was a second skin, a reminder of his purpose. He picked up his rifle, a custom-built plasma weapon capable of punching through Imperial armor like paper, and slung it over his shoulder. Nikki finished her work and stood, her eyes meeting Kane's. "I've jammed their communications. They won't be calling for reinforcements." "Good," Kane replied. "Let's give them a fight they'll never forget." The team moved to the hangar bay, where their transport awaited. The ship, a sleek, stealth-capable dropship known as the Shadow Blade, was already primed for launch. Kane took his seat at the front, the cockpit's controls lighting up at his touch. He glanced at his team, their faces set with grim determination. "This is it," Kane said over the intercom. "We go in fast and hard. We take the outpost, eliminate any Imperial forces, and secure the site. This is our first strike, but it won't be our last. We're sending a message today, that Earth isn't beaten, and we won't bow to the Empire." The Shadow Blade roared to life, its engines humming with power as it lifted off the hangar floor. The ship shot forward, accelerating into the darkened sky, cloaked by the latest in stealth technology. Outside, the landscape blurred into a streak of lights and shadows, and the Boogeymen steeled themselves for the battle ahead. As they approached the Arctic outpost, the temperature in the cabin dropped, and the windows frosted over. Below them, the icy expanse of the Arctic stretched out like a frozen sea, a stark contrast to the warmth of the base they had left behind. The outpost itself was a cluster of domes and towers, half buried in snow, with lines of energy shielding flickering in the harsh winds. Mex was the first to speak. "Visual on the target, minimal defenses. Looks like they're relying on stealth more than firepower." "Then we'll use it against them," Kane said. "Prepare for insertion. We hit hard, no mercy." The Shadow Blade descended silently, its cloaking field masking its approach. As the ship hovered just above the outpost, the team disembarked, dropping into the snow with barely a sound. They moved as one, a seamless unit of death and precision, their black armor blending into the shadows. Kane took point, leading his team through the snow-covered terrain. Ahead, the outpost loomed, its walls slick with ice. He raised his hand, signaling for the team to halt. The Boogeymen crouched, their weapons at the ready as Kane scanned the area. His helmet's HUD highlighted enemy positions. Imperial soldiers, heavily armored and armed with pulse rifles, patrolled the perimeter. Kane signaled again and Mex moved forward, her form a blur as she slipped into the shadows. Within moments, she had dispatched the first guard, her blade flashing in the moonlight before she vanished once more. One by one, the Imperial soldiers fell, taken down with lethal precision. The Boogeymen moved like wraiths, silent and unstoppable. As they breached the outpost's main gate, Kane led the charge, his rifle blazing. The first Imperial squad barely had time to react before they were cut down, their armor no match for the Boogeymen's advanced weaponry. The outpost's alarms blared, but it was already too late. The Boogeymen had arrived, and they brought with them the wrath of a world scorned. Kane pushed forward, his team fanning out to secure the outpost. The Imperials fought back, but they were disorganized, caught off guard by the ferocity of the assault. Kane moved with deadly efficiency, each shot and strike calculated to inflict maximum damage. The battle was swift and brutal, the outpost's defenders no match for the Boogeymen's superior tactics and technology. In the control room, Kane faced off against the Imperial strike team's leader, a hulking figure clad in heavy armor. The Imperial commander sneered, raising a plasma cannon that glowed with deadly energy. But Kane was faster. He dodged the first blast, the searing heat barely missing him, and closed the distance in an instant. With a swift, precise strike, he drove his blade through the commander's armor, piercing the vital circuits beneath. The commander staggered, his weapon falling from his grasp. Kane twisted the blade and the Imperial fell, a look of shock frozen on his face. Kane stepped back, breathing heavily, and looked around. The control room was theirs, the battle won. But this was only the beginning. Nikki hacked into the outpost systems, disabling the remaining defenses and bringing the full facility under their control. She glanced at Kane, a satisfied smile playing on her lips. "We did it. They didn't know what hit them." Kane nodded, his expression fierce. "And they won't, not until it's too late." The Boogeymen regrouped, standing victorious amidst the wreckage of the outpost. They had struck back against the Empire, delivering a blow that would echo across the stars. But Kane knew this was just one battle in a much larger war. The Empire would come for them, and they would need to be ready. Kane looked at his team, their faces set with determination. They were Earth's last hope, its shield against the darkness. and they would not rest until the Empire paid for every life it had taken. "Let's move," Kane ordered. "We've got a war to win." Before proceeding, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell. Chapter 4. The storm breaks. The cold Arctic wind howled through the abandoned corridors of the outpost as the Boogeymen fortified their position. The successful assault had delivered a powerful message, but Kane's Shepherd knew it was only a matter of time before the Empire retaliated. They had drawn blood, but the real test would be to hold their ground when the Empire's wrath inevitably descended upon them. Inside the command center, Kane and his team worked tirelessly, scanning through intercepted Imperial communications and troop movements. Nikki Hayes was at the helm of the operation, her fingers flying over the keyboard as she tapped into the enemy's networks, gleaning critical information about upcoming strikes and tactical plans. "Got something," Nikki said, her voice cutting through the tense silence. She projected a holographic display showing the outline of an Imperial fleet mobilizing in low orbit. "The Empire's deploying reinforcements. Looks like they're sending in the 9th Fleet. Heavy cruisers, dropships, ground troops. They're bringing the hammer down on us." Kane studied the display, his mind racing. The 9th Fleet was one of the Empire's most formidable units, renowned for its brutal efficiency in quelling rebellions and razing planets to the ground. If they were bringing in the 9th, it meant the Empire was done playing games. This was a full-scale assault, and they were willing to risk it all to crush the Boogeymen. Mex Vega, who had been watching from the shadows, stepped forward. "They're expecting a simple cleanup operation. They think they can just steamroll us." Kane smirked, a dangerous glint in his eyes. "Then we make them bleed. Nikki, get me a layout of their fleet formation. We're going to hit them where they least expect it." Nikki pulled up the fleet's positioning data, showing a tight formation designed to maximize their orbital bombardment capabilities. It was a classic Imperial tactic: use overwhelming firepower to demoralize and destroy before sending in ground forces to mop up. But Kane saw an opportunity in their arrogance. "If we can disrupt their formation, even for a moment, we can turn their own tactics against them," Kane said, his mind already formulating a plan. "We'll hijack their targeting systems and use their own guns to take out their ships. Nikki, you'll handle the cyber assault. Mex, I need you to get us eyes on their flagship. Their command structure will be key." Mex nodded, already slipping on her recon gear. "I'll get close enough to count the rivets on their hull." The plan was audacious, bordering on reckless, but the Boogeymen thrived in the realm of the impossible. They moved swiftly, deploying their Shadowblade dropship to position them above the 9th Fleet's formation. Kane felt the familiar surge of adrenaline as they breached the upper atmosphere, the icy landscape giving way to the inky blackness of space. As they approached the fleet, Nikki initiated her cyber assault, launching a barrage of data spikes and scrambling the Empire's sensors. On the tactical display, Kane watched as several of the Imperial ships began to drift out of formation, their targeting systems flickering and misaligning. "We're in," Nikki said, a hint of triumph in her voice. "They're blind and confused." Kane didn't waste a second. "All units, engage. Focus fire on their flagship." The Boogeymen launched their attack with surgical precision. Kane piloted the Shadowblade with expert control, weaving through the barrage of anti-air fire as the team targeted the flagship's engines and critical systems. Nikki's cyber assault threw the enemy's communications into chaos, creating the illusion of a far larger assault than the Boogeymen's small strike team. The Imperial fleet faltered, caught off guard by the ferocity and precision of the attack. One by one, the Boogeymen disabled key systems on the flagship, causing cascading failures that spread through the formation. Explosions rippled through the Imperial ships, tearing through their hulls as their own weaponry turned against them. Inside the Shadowblade, Kane kept his focus sharp, directing his team with the calm precision of a seasoned commander. Mex provided real-time intel from her advanced recon equipment, highlighting weak points in the Imperial defenses. Nikki maintained her relentless cyber assault, keeping the enemy in disarray. The tide was turning, but the battle was far from over. The 9th Fleet's flagship, though crippled, was still operational, and its commander was not about to retreat without a fight. A barrage of missiles streaked through space, narrowly missing the Shadowblade as Kane executed a tight, evasive maneuver. "Hang on," Kane shouted over the comms, his voice steady despite the intense firefight. The Shadowblade's engines roared as it dove beneath the fleet, circling back for another pass. Kane aimed for the flagship's bridge, where the command crew was scrambling to regain control. He knew that taking out the bridge would cripple their command structure and deliver the decisive blow they needed. With pinpoint accuracy, Kane fired a salvo of plasma rounds at the bridge. The shots hit their mark, shattering the reinforced glass and igniting a chain reaction that tore through the flagship's core. The bridge erupted in a brilliant explosion, sending debris and bodies tumbling into the void. The rest of the Imperial fleet, now leaderless and in disarray, began to scatter. Some ships attempted to regroup, but Nikki's cyber assault had left them vulnerable, their systems compromised and their weapons offline. The Boogeymen pressed their advantage, picking off the remaining ships one by one, until the Ninth Fleet was nothing more than a field of wreckage drifting in orbit. As the last of the Imperial ships disintegrated under the relentless assault, Kane allowed himself a brief moment of satisfaction. They had done it. They had faced the Empire's wrath head-on and emerged victorious. But he knew this victory, while significant, was only a step toward the larger goal. "Status report," Kane ordered as the team regrouped aboard the Shadowblade. "Fleet's in full retreat," Nikki said, her voice tinged with exhaustion but triumphant. "We've dealt them a serious blow. It's going to take them time to regroup." Kane nodded, his expression resolute. "Good. But we're not done. The Empire won't stop until they've crushed us, or we've dismantled their entire operation." This was just round one. He looked at his team, their faces reflecting the mix of relief and determination that mirrored his own. They had proven that the Boogeymen were more than just a myth. They were Earth's fiercest defenders, and they were not to be trifled with. "Prepare for extraction," Kane said, setting the Shadowblade's course back to their hidden base. "We've got a war to finish." Chapter 5. Assault on the Citadel. The Empire's retaliation was swift and merciless. Within days of the Ninth Fleet's defeat, Kane and his team had to weather an onslaught of counterstrikes designed to cripple their operations. But the Boogeymen were not so easily broken. Each attack was met with cunning and ferocity, turning what should have been their darkest hour into a series of improbable victories. For every Imperial strike team that landed, Kane had a trap waiting. For every bombardment, he had a countermeasure. The Boogeymen thrived in the chaos, proving time and again that they were more than a myth. They were Earth's unbreakable shield. But Kane knew that these skirmishes were just a prelude. The real battle would be fought in the heart of the Empire's power, the Citadel. It was the nerve center of the Imperial war machine, a heavily fortified station floating in the high orbit of the gas giant Kaldor. It was here that the Emperor himself commanded his forces, directing the relentless push to conquer Earth and its colonies. The Citadel was more than a fortress. It was a symbol of the Empire's unassailable dominance. Taking it down would be the blow that could turn the tide of the war. Kane gathered his team in the briefing room of their hidden base. The tension was palpable. They all knew what was at stake. Holographic displays showed the Citadel's formidable defenses, layers of shields, swarms of automated turrets, and a fleet of warships on constant patrol. It was a fortress designed to repel entire armadas. But Kane's eyes were locked on a single weak point, a service shaft that led straight into the Citadel's power core. It was a flaw, buried in old construction plans, overlooked in the Citadel's upgrades. "This is our way in," Kane said, pointing to the shaft. "The Empire thinks it's impenetrable, but we're not going in guns blazing. We'll slip in, disable their shields, and plant a bomb right in the heart of their power core. One well-placed charge, and the whole Citadel goes dark." "This is our way in," Kane said, pointing to the shaft. "The Empire thinks it's impenetrable, but we're not going in guns blazing. We'll slip in, disable their shields, and plant a bomb right in the heart of their power core. One well-placed charge, and the whole Citadel goes dark." Nikki nodded, her expression serious. "I can keep their systems blind, but once we're inside, it's all on us. We'll have to move fast." Mex crossed her arms, a confident smirk on her face. "Speed is our specialty, but getting out alive, that's the tricky part." Kane smiled grimly. "We've faced worse odds. We're not just going to take out the Citadel. We're going to send a message. Earth isn't theirs to take." The plan was simple in concept, but perilous in execution. The Boogeymen would infiltrate the Citadel using a stolen Imperial shuttle, posing as a maintenance crew. Once inside, Nikki would hack the internal security to disable the shields, while Kane, Mex, and the rest of the team would plant the explosives. The trickiest part would be escaping before the station went critical. With everything set, the Boogeymen launched their assault on the Citadel. They approached under the cover of the planet's turbulent magnetic field, evading detection with Nikki's expert hacking skills. The stolen shuttle flew through the Citadel's docking protocols unchallenged, slipping past layers of security as if it were just another cog in the Empire's massive war machine. As they disembarked, the team moved with practiced precision, blending in among the throngs of Imperial personnel. Kane's heart pounded as they passed security checkpoints, each one a potential death trap. But luck, or perhaps the Empire's overconfidence, was on their side. They made it to the service shaft without raising any alarms. Inside the shaft, they descended into the depths of the Citadel, the hum of the station's reactors growing louder as they approached the power core. The air was thick with heat and the acrid smell of coolant. Nikki worked her magic, disabling security cameras and rerouting power to give them a clear path. "We're almost there," Nikki whispered, her voice tense as she sliced through another layer of security protocols. "Just keep moving." Kane led the way, his senses on high alert. Every creak of metal, every flicker of a light sent a jolt of adrenaline through his veins. But they moved like shadows, undetected, until they reached the power core, a massive, pulsating sphere of energy encased in reinforced armor. "Mex, set the charges," Kane ordered, his voice low and steady. Mex nodded, her hands moving swiftly as she placed the explosives at key structural points around the core. The clock was ticking, and they had no time to waste. As Mex armed the last charge, the power core's containment field flickered, a subtle warning of the chaos to come. Nikki's voice crackled over the comms, urgent and strained. "We've got a problem. The system's trying to reboot. They're onto us." Kane cursed under his breath. "We need those shields down, Nikki. Now." "I'm working on it, but they're fighting back hard," Nikki replied, her fingers dancing over the control panel. "Just hold on." Before she could finish, the alarms blared, a deafening wail that echoed through the station. Red lights flashed, and the sound of boots on metal grated against Kane's nerves. The Empire's forces were closing in, and the clock had just run out. "Charges set," Mex shouted, stepping back from the core. "We need to go now." Kane activated his comms. "Nikki, hit it." Nikki slammed the final command into the console. For a split second, the Citadel's shields flickered, then collapsed in a shower of sparks. Kane watched as the station's exterior defenses went dark, the power surge ripping through systems and sending the Citadel into disarray. "Move! Move! Move!" Kane barked, leading the team back the way they came. They sprinted through the chaos, dodging bursts of gunfire and weaving past frantic crew members. The station was in full lockdown, but the Boogeymen knew their route, navigating the maze of corridors with lethal efficiency. They reached the docking bay just as the first explosions rocked the Citadel. Kane could feel the vibrations underfoot, the core's unstable energy rippling outward. He turned, covering the retreat as Mex and the others boarded the shuttle. "Kane, let's go!" Mex yelled, her voice barely audible over the roar of collapsing metal. Kane fired a last burst from his rifle, taking out an advancing squad of Imperial troopers, before diving into the shuttle. The doors sealed shut, and the engines roared to life. Nikki pushed the shuttle to its limits, blasting away from the Citadel as the station's hull began to buckle under the strain of the explosion. From the safety of the shuttle's rear viewport, Kane watched as the Citadel imploded, the once mighty fortress reduced to a cloud of debris and fire. It was a sight that would be broadcast across the galaxy, a symbol of defiance, a declaration that the Empire was not invincible. As they sped away from the crumbling wreckage, Kane allowed himself a rare moment of satisfaction. They had struck a blow that would resonate through the Empire's ranks, a reminder that the Boogeymen were still out there, still fighting. But Kane knew the war was far from over. This was just one battle in a long and bloody campaign. The Empire would regroup, and they would come back stronger. But for now, they had won a crucial victory, a beacon of hope in the dark expanse of war. "Mission accomplished," Kane said, his voice steady but fierce. "Now, let's get ready for the next one." And as the shuttle vanished into the void, Kane's eyes were already on the next target. The Boogeymen would keep fighting, and they would keep winning, one impossible mission at a time. If you enjoy this video, then don't forget to like the video, subscribe to my channel, and hit the notification bell.